Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sangham namasami. So I just have to get used to the space and my audience, quote unquote. It's very nice. Some of you I haven't seen for a long time, and many of the others are somewhere around London, maybe, or England. So I didn't really. Well, I did choose the words, the talk that had the title "Simplicity." It's a word that speaks to me. I had one talk I gave many years ago when I came back from Thailand after spending a few years there, and it was titled Simplicity. Somebody put the title Simplicity. And one of the reasons is because I was talking about my experience of living a very simple life of a forest nun in the forest and having nothing to do except sweep my paths once a day and going Pindapat. And I was the only nun for the first year and second year, and one more nun there, and it was a monk's monastery. And the teacher had accepted me to stay with the community, and quite separate, quite isolated, but it was a very beautiful life. At the time, I was really enjoying, after spending 15 years in a community, a mixed community, building monasteries and starting a community of nuns and learning the training and so on. It was very nice just to do nothing, just meditate, just sit down with the trees and nature. It speaks to me deeply, very deep connection with nature, like most human beings. And so I kind of considered what this word simplicity really evoke in us. I think we all, deep down, at a level that is far below the thinking level, we are yearning in a way for something that is more in harmony with our nature. And as we discover in our training and in our practice of meditation and just reflection and using the mind to really contemplate Dhamma, you discover that our nature is really a yearning for peace and simplicity at the same time, for loving connection with people, for kindness, and so on. And also, I think simplicity is linked together with beauty. It's probably a different kind of beauty for different people, but the wish, I remember, it will make Noriko laugh. How much I wanted to have a kind of Zen-style house, flat at the time in London, with nothing in it, just tatami and nothing else really. I was already married, but sleeping on tatami seemed to be good. Oh my God. And so, what is it that makes us think of simplicity? Usually, thoughts arise, not always, but there is a kind of mechanism in the mind that sort of juggle with its opposites. Do you know? When we are tired, we want to sleep or rest. When it's cold, we're yearning for warmth. When it's warmth, we're yearning for cold. Huh? When we think we're stupid, we do all kinds of things to become intelligent. When we think we are, unloved, we believe we are unloved, and maybe we start looking for love in a stupid way often, which keep recreating this horrible karma of feeling unloved. So the mind seems to be kind of moved by opposites. And the mind, that's not just thinking, it's also our emotions, our feelings, our desires, our mood, etc., etc. When I'm bored long enough, before becoming a Buddhist, I did not know whether, boredom was impermanent, so you fight to get rid of your boredom. You didn't realize, that actually boredom has only a little time space, and it goes away, it just dies and dies. And then it's gone. Suddenly you feel bright and you can look at the sky again and admire the trees and have good idea of doing really good things. And so when I thought about simplicity, I was thinking, what is the opposite of simplicity? And it's not very hard to really think about it. I think we're basing into the most complex world we've ever seen. A most complexity of human existence that's probably ever appeared in this universe called the Earth, or big universe, solar universe. So this is quite a challenge for all of us. It's for anybody. People think it stops at the monastery. Ha ha ha. I make them laugh. The simplicity doesn't arise in a monastery necessarily. Although we have a lot of occasion and opportunities to see the value and the goodness of a simple mind, simple life, simple, not a simple, simplistic mind, but a mind that can think clearly, that can speak clearly, and that can, respond to life in a way that's balanced and, effective and, in tune with Dhamma in a way, the middle way, which not many people know until you meet Buddhist teaching. You don't even know what there is a middle way. There is a way of looking at things which is not kind of shot from one side to another with lots of opinions and views and a lot of beliefs and a lot of ideas that we think are absolutely fixed and there's nothing else. So that's why our mind gets very complex, because we agitate the mind, we agitate our body, we're confused by what's going on, we don't know what to do, and then we go and cry, and then we wonder, I'm terrible. No, you're not terrible. Just explain the world as it is. The world is made up, a mental state. Your world, if you look at your mind, you don't have any doubt, do you? That the mind is really, goes through a lot of confusion, of veil, you don't see clearly, of beliefs that just suddenly don't work anymore. There's a lot of things that, when we become aware, we can see the process of dying, the process of anicca, things changing, moving. And suddenly we lose our best friend. We were very attached maybe with being very humorous and making lots of jokes. I was one of them. And suddenly you realize that you have to kind of die to this making fun and jokes, because you realize it's always at the expense of somebody else. And then your compassion starts kind of moving middle way, and you say, I can't do this anymore, otherwise I'll be kind of making fun of somebody, Even with a good heart, you just don't want to I would say, transform someone into what they are not. For one thing, what they are not permanently, and what they don't think they are not what they think they are, like that, and so on. So it's being really, very destructive to do that, That's how I felt, that I don't want to go down the path of creating people in a miserable way, even if we all laugh and all have fun with it, So, when you think about, I don't know, your generation, I've never really been with you, all this young generation, I have no idea what you think and feel and do, and, we didn't have, my generation didn't have the internet connection. So, I use internet as a book, you find all your information on the internet these days. unless you go to the library and look for things, But in my day, when I was, married still, the place to go, even though we were yearning, myself and my ex-husband, for something simple, a simple life, a simple way of living, close to the earth, close to nature, But there was always this fear of being bored and living a really boring life with no interest in being active in any way or even thinking actively. It was important. So we were more because we didn't have the internet, our life would be simple, but we wanted to be close to cultural center, to good movies, cinemas, they have the old movies and the best movies in the world, artistically and so on. And so, or the concert or whatever, all the things that have to do with art. And the idea of moving away from that was just unbearable. We couldn't imagine us, living with just trees and the sound of the wind, and the what you call that, the rainfalls and whatever the sound you find in nature, the birds. That was not enough. We loved the idea of being in a living space that was simple and natural, but our mind was much more demanding, and attuned to with a level of interaction with the mental, artistic ways and literature way, and in every aspect. Because as I said, whether it was music or painting or writing or singing or whatever, all aspects of art form was really important for myself and for my partner, for my husband, my ex-husband. So many people in the world, I must not forget that people I'm talking to are not just monastics. So it's easy to forget. So people living in the world, and obviously you say, how do I live a simple life? So we don't have a great amount of time to speak about this, so I'll be a bit short, When you look at life, really, internally in your meditation, or you look at life, just how your body functions, how your brain functions, how your people functions, not just you, but everybody around you. Is that simple? Have you found that your mind is simple? Have you found that your perceptions are simple? When you live in the world, I'm not saying in monastery, you don't live with money, you don't live with bank account, you don't live with a great amount of stress and complexity are cut off in our life. You don't have to go and shoot people if you're a soldier. You don't have to go and bargain and make horrible problems with money and, get into trouble, go to, with the police or, get into, and, through maybe despair, you end up in prison because you have nothing to eat. And you start stealing things. We don't have to do this. Every day people are bringing food to us, magnificent meal every day. And so when you are out there, in a normal family life or work situation or, that's, I can't imagine how it would function, Yet, many people work, and successfully, and with running maybe a business and having to deal with taking care of children and partners and so on, So when you really contemplate the whole experience of being human, you realize life is not simple. Nature is not simple either. Nature looks really simple for us because when we're in nature, we empty our mind. We feel very happy, don't we? So often we can easily kind of mistake simplicity and having what you like. And totally unidentified. I would have to work very hard to be identified to a tree myself, or to a rabbit, or to a squirrel. I just love them because I'm totally disengaged with them, and if anything, Mother Nature has a motherly energy all around her. Because every time you see an animal, particularly when they are small, you just want to take them in your arm and give them little kisses, You You just want to cuddle them, don't you? When you see a little bird struggling or an animal, just on its own, you feel their vulnerability and you feel their fear, for survival. So Mother Nature is not particularly simple. It just does its thing, but it's incredibly complex system. But when you read a book that's been written by a man or women, I can't remember, who discovered, it's probably been known for eons of time by the Aborigines or the first tribe in America, or any people living 3,000 years ago might have known that already, much more than we do. I'm going to tell you in a minute. That trees, you probably have read it even, that trees take care of each other, of different sort of tree. Did you know that? They have a channel underneath the earth. If some trees are not doing well, they start sending out nutriment. Did you know that? Yeah, there's a whole book. I think it might be even in the library. It's a friend, one of my students in France gave it to me. Passed away, unfortunately, but that was quite an heart-opening, eye-opening to think of the forest, looking after each other. Such a beautiful sign of love in nature. This experience of love and loving and caring to keep life healthy, to keep the body and mind healthy. And in a way, wherever you turn, things become complicated. Any human mind will complicate anything. Even a stone. You look at a stone, your judging mind starts thinking, it's not good enough, it should be this way and that way, different color. I think it's not going to fit where I want it to fit. It would be so good if you could just be on my carpet next door to this one. But it's not good enough. You start complicating what you look at, what you think of, what you remember. So this simplicity, where are we going to find it? If you look around and think for yourself, use your own brain to find out what is simple in your life, you won't find many things. Why? There's a good reason. I mean, that's why we become a Buddhist monks and nuns. I think all of us, we discovered that maybe there is a way forward. When I was in the world, on my own, whether I was, still married or afterwards, I discovered a great sense of happiness on my own. I really like to be alone. A sense of happiness and freedom you don't always have in other situations. And so I was already I had a very strong confidence, faith, you could say, even though I was not in positive thinking at all. But from my own experience, it was so natural that this mind, this life, had to be following a path of happiness, well-being, and kindness and love, and all the qualities that we, in a way, embark on when we are Buddhist monks and nuns. These are the kind of things that we wish for oneself and others. So I leave it to you to continue the reflections about what is not complicated in this life. What is truly a sign of simplicity in our daily life, right? Who is the culprit? Who is the one to blame? Blame. Is there somebody to blame? Now, very often, we are master at blaming other people. We blame life, we blame society, we blame our husband, our wife, our partner, our dogs, our T-shirts, anything to describe the fact that life is not as simple as I'd like it to be. The monastery. People say, and they come and they say, gosh, I thought that was a simple life, And some people just walk out maybe a week afterwards, because they feel so disappointed. That monastics are just ordinary human beings, unenlightened particularly, not yet a Buddha. Not yet this beautiful ideal that you thought they were. But it's about time we wake up. When we wake up to that, then we realize we come down to earth and we are reality. The reality is that everybody in this world is very human. Everyone in this world is suffering from the craziness of greed, of hatred, of, of not knowing. I don't like to use the word ignorance because that has a negative effect. Buddha never have a judgment about anything that he says. If you look deeply, it's amazing. He never, ever, ever judge anything. He just says to you, hey, look, this is what's happening. I have a path for you. What else? What is more compassionate than this? And, believe it or not, a simple path. That's why I love the Buddha Dhamma, is because it's just so absolutely on the ball, I can't find the word in English, on the mark, that's right, on the mark. When I teach and I say to people, you don't need to read much, you don't need to complicate your study about Buddhism, just look at yourself. That's what Ajahn Chah says the same thing, but he doesn't say something that's so special. It's a result of the wisdom that comes from practice. And not even the wisdom, it's something you chant every day. What is dukkha and stress? What is dukkha and stress? And I'm translating dukkha as stress, like Ajahn Thanissaro, which I really like the translation. There's also dukkha is suffering, pain. And dukkha is also that which is difficult to bear. That's what complexity does to us. If we're not trained to make peace with complexity, we don't know how to handle them. I know myself, I do very well in a simpler environment. I ended up with a big community of monks and nuns, But generally, life is a better quality for me when I'm just on my own with the trees. And, I like to have company from time to time, but just enough to, enough, not too much, And so we're stuck with complexity. We're stuck with a lot of, I found the word is, with a mind which is so struggling with life. People get depression. They become psychotic. People become, completely despairing. Or they're addicted to so many drugs and drinks and things like that. And, the world, when I look at the news, I have to say I'm horrified myself. Don't stop me from looking at them. I don't have to bite into them, or I don't have to believe anything that I see. But what I'm talking about when I look at the news is what people are exposed to. It's so unhealthy. It's so uninspiring. It's so unuplifting. Where do you find your inspiration in a world that's constantly, at war with itself? Where do you find a sense of uplift, inspiration, the energy of the heart that is inspired? Where do you find it? And people are very courageous. When you look what's happening all around the world, how amazing people all around, who are facing situations that are totally unbearable, impossible. When I see this, I say, who are you to complain about anything? Hey, wait a minute. You have the space, you have the time, you have the silence, you have the solitude, you have many things. In the program of Amaravati, everybody is free most of the afternoon. I'm not talking about people in the world. I don't know how much time you have in your daily life, working life, So when this kind of space and time for oneself to just deal with one's life without a lot of structure and a lot of pressure and a lot of, irritation from the situation we are in, it must be absolutely amazing. You have to be extraordinary to survive, I find. Mind you, complexity, I have to say, just to add a little thing before I go into the means, how to deal with complexity and I talk about simplicity again. Sometimes, of course, when we have challenges, we wake up. Some people facilitates people's capacity to wake up. Either they go down the drain and despair, or you can wake up, and that energy of waking up in face of challenges is an amazing energy. You can experience this in the Sangha. You can experience this as a nun, living a simple life and living quite, fairly, we have work to do, things to maintain the monastery, but that's part of everybody's, norm. Anywhere you go, you have to sustain things, you have to, help the place you are in, give things to it, and so on. And practice here, we're here to practice, so our responsibility is to practice and to develop the training that we are embarked on. But, apart from that, when you see what's going on in the world, I don't think we'll find simplicity anywhere. Maybe moments of simplicity, of course, when you look at the ocean. The ocean is not simple when you go underneath, it's all eating each other, Surviving, in other words. The human beings have developed a very refined art of surviving and eating each other. We just dress nicely, lots of money, bargain things. We develop qualities that enable us to do a lot of business and a lot of things, undercover. It doesn't look like war. But I think, the Anagarika here, you're very lucky not to look at the news. I don't know if you look at the news, but you're lucky to be spared of that. Because it's really a world of war. It's so constantly battling, Every system seems to fail because something big is missing. It's so run. It's a lack of understanding of the disastrous fruits of a mind constantly bargaining through greed, hatred, and delusion. Constantly bargaining or fearing. You fear. This fear element is constantly here in our body, just like the animals are terrified to be hurt and killed. We have also, not just the body, we're frightened to die and be killed and so on, maybe, not all the time, but the fear is more the mind. It's in the mind, it's like the fear, the fear of, that something could happen to our body, but it's like it inhabits us until we have seen through it completely, I think. It will inhabit us because it's very natural to fear death. You'll be really, unusual. It takes, the body is what dies, you understand? So the body is frightened to die, do you understand? The mind might be really happy. You can see, I'm fine, if you're inspired and up in the mind and forget on the body. Somebody says something inspiring about death, you're ready to go. You say, okay, I don't mind dying, But when you are near death, I'm sure the body must be really maybe quite shaken by that transition from life to death. Yeah? So nothing is simple, you can see. All our life is a masses of challenges and complexities. But there is a way, fortunately. We're not completely stuck with dukkha. Often I say to people, can you imagine if the Buddha just had stopped at dukkha and left it there? Dukkha and the origin of dukkha. And then he died, like when, he might have died, and then we would have found him like in the same situation that when he said, can the women, Ananda, sort of saying to the Buddha, can the women ordain or something, Or something he forgot. Oh, no, it was not about the women. It was about, can we change rules or something? And then the Buddha died, before he responded to Ananda, I think, a particular response to Ananda. But the response that was needed, can we change rules? I think Ananda just forgot it. So the Buddha never knew about it, That affects the women, of course, nowadays with all this bhikkhuni affair. So, here we are. He didn't leave us out of compassion, fortunately. He left us with the medicine and the cure, which are the third noble truth and the fourth noble truth. And to me, after a long reflection, which has to be condensed, on this whole domain of simplicity, this whole thing that so many people are yearning for. Yes, you can yearn for it for a long time. If your mind is complex, it's not going to come along so easily. Huh? And yet, we can't kill this mind, can we? We can't just put it in a bottle and make you stop. We would never do that, would we? We live with it. It's running our life. It's creating our life. It's actually manufacturing the world we live in. Can you believe it? It's powerful. If that one dies, we're not very much, are we? At a certain age, you know that at some point the mind will not be so kind of smart as it used to be when we were young. And we could take pride in having maybe a smart mind, But now when you get older, things become more simple. That's one of the benefit of being an older person, is that the future is not very, very long when you anticipate the future, right? And the past, well, it's gone. So many people think about the past all the time because that's the time lag that is still inspiring for them. The past is still uplifting if they have good, good memories. The future is automatically uncertain, but for many people, the future, they want to create a future that's depending on what they want. And when you have only a few years to live, if not a few months, you don't know. You can have a few months, a few years to live as a young person, as a 3 years old, as a 4 years old, 10, 30 years old, and so on. But as you get older, it's obviously, you don't have to think too much about that and read a lot of books about when you could die. It could happen anytime. So we have suddenly, when I discovered the Buddha's teaching, that's the only teaching. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm a fundamentalist Buddhist, but I feel, even myself, I've been interested in all the religious teaching. I've been attracted to learn, to know a little bit about them, particularly that which brings all of them together, the center of it, the middle piece of it, the heart of religion, you could say. I find it very interesting. And so of Buddhism, and I don't want to say that in a kind of categorical way, because many of the other teaching work with teachers and masters and transmission and all that. Do you understand? I'm talking about Sufism, or you talk about Christianity and so on. They have their relationship with Jesus, whatever. So I'm not, don't have the pretense that I know how other people function on their path. But certainly for me, the simplicity of the Buddhist teaching, I didn't need anybody. I could do it myself, but I knew that I was far too worldly person to carry on being on the 5 precepts and the Noble Eightfold Path. Do you understand? So you begin to look at the teaching. I go to the most simple teaching and the most profound teaching of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths. Okay? As you know, Ajahn Sumedho used to say to us 40 years ago, this is my teaching, and now he's still saying this is my path, the Four Noble Truths. And I thought, I didn't think so much about what's his style, but of course I started studying the Four Noble Truths on myself, not in the book. So I didn't need Ajahn Sumedho to tell me the Four Noble Truths, because I found them in myself. And what I found is that the mind suffers, there's no doubt about it, and the body suffers, there's no doubt about it. I mean, all of us are old enough to know that this is true. Now, it's so simple. The rest of the description of the Four Noble Truths is interesting. We chant it every morning sometimes. Getting what we want. That's part of I'm not giving you the right. Not getting what you want is suffering. Getting what you don't want is suffering. And one day I gave a talk and I say, and getting what you want is also suffering. It's one of the talk I gave. So at that point, you begin to mature. You realize that even getting what you want makes you really bored and miserable, as many of us have experienced that, right? So this is easy to start studying this in oneself. How much you have to be brainy to study this? If you have to be interested, you have to have the chanda. You know what the Buddha talks about the four weight of powers. You know, chanda, viriya, chitta, vimamsa. Do you remember those four powers? Right? Interest, enthusiasm, zest. You have to be really interested in the Four Noble Truths, as a book in here, not out there on the chanting book. And so not getting what you want is painful. Yeah, whenever I don't get what I want, I get really irritated. When I was young, I would get really very angry, and I had to really, as time went on, you get very angry inside, but you can't say anything outside. So you have to really have a very strong mind. It's all around. It's not just here. It's more like here. You feel it like in the Zen tradition, you know, the hara. A very strong energy of restraint to be able to hold the anger of the feeling of negativity or anger or whatever, you know, something that could be harmful to yourself and others. You know, to be able to hold this energy and let it go. The more you do this, then you let it go, then you let it go. And then it doesn't fool you so much, you know, because we feel terrified, you know, I'm angry, so we go blank, you know. After that, after 10 years, people say, I've had enough. I just, you know, being peaceful all the time, it doesn't work for me, I haven't changed much. And I still go incredibly angry with people, but what do I do with that? I shouldn't be angry if I'm a Buddha, no. The Buddha says if you're angry, you just know you are angry, clearly, deeply, and then you learn how to let it go. You don't wait for the books to tell you this. This is a book. That's the only one you have. It takes a lot of patience. That's what the Buddha said. Patience is the top guy up there. Top women, sorry. The top human. Top human being. Top qualities. Patience, endurance are the highest austerities, the Buddha says, remember, in the Yogavada Patimokkha. Yeah? It's not saying, you know, if you do ascetic practices like the yogi do in India, when you you lie down on a bed of nails, you learn how to walk through fire, you know. Even my friend in America, they were a workshop on learning how to walk through fire. They did them with their son and the wife and the husband. They had workshop, but weekend workshop. You have to pay thousands of dollars to do that. But people get really excited at the idea of walking through fire unscathed, you know? Yeah. Anyway, I must not lose your thread through all my stories. So going back to the Buddhist teaching, it's much more, you could say, uneventful at some level, you know. It's just saying, you know, patience, endurance. You know, the capacity, endurance in Pali, in Thailand, this is a word that's absolutely magic. I mean, not magic, how do you say? That's the main word that is almost as close as, quote unquote, God in the West. And, you know, endurance. You don't need to practice, you know, you get a feeling from the forest monk, you know, they don't need to practice much, they just endure mindfully. Do you understand? They just endure. And then all kinds of wisdom come from that. Do you understand? All kinds of amazing knowledge and teaching come from just enduring, even without knowing anything, you just endure. Especially when Ajahn Chah was around with him, he was talking about, you know, restraint. Patience, endurance, you know, like sitting all night and not eating maybe for a while, but that wasn't such a big thing in the Buddhist teaching to fast, to do a lot of long fasting. The Buddha was not into extreme asceticism, as you know. So, what is the simplicity of the Noble Eightfold Path, of Nirodha, which is the end of suffering, and the path? Where is the simplicity? The simplicity is from the first to the second to the third to the fourth Noble Truth. Okay? They all work together. When you see suffering, it means you're likely to see the cause of suffering if you're patient and you can endure suffering long enough. I don't wish you to suffer, but if it comes along your way, treat it like I did treat my own suffering. I say, don't distract yourself from this suffering. This is your golden gate, your golden door. That suffering, if you use it as a Dhamma, it will move you forward into letting go and liberation. Do you understand? If you distract yourself, you've lost the opportunity to lose a particular conditioning. Right? And that, I don't know if people see it so clearly. Any little bit of suffering, you can see at some level, you can see your body and mind in quite a subtle level. Not when they are absorbed into jhana or something like that, but where you're looking at your guts or your body or your heart. Your body is a great book, you can read so much suffering from the body. And happiness also too. But when the body hurts in any way, emotionally as well, physically, any dukkha. Dukkha is a word that's so common now. People, I say dukkha takes you to, samudaya, which is a cause of dukkha. That's also a wonderful book to read in yourself. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it doesn't bring tears, and I'm not saying that you get completely desperate about never being able to walk one way forward anymore, because it's so difficult sometimes. When your dukkha is about, not wanting to become anything. Suddenly people think that to become a good Buddhist, you don't become anything. But that's not the way. Life is a becoming. It's constantly becoming, from young age to old age, from health to sickness, from hungry to not hungry, from not hungry to be starving. Yeah? So it's a constant, it's in time, do you understand? It's a becoming in time. What the Buddha is talking about is that, be careful with the becoming process. Make sure you don't hook yourself on things that are destructive and, and bringing a lot of harm in yourself. That's what the basic foundation is, the precepts, by precept and etc., etc. Because when you have a foundation with sila, then you're also connected with the good, not just here in your little hole, with the whole world. You're connected with a good pathway. That's my discovery. I don't know if it is true, but that's what I feel. I don't have to believe it particularly, but I have confidence. This is true. It doesn't mean somebody will kill me, and mistreat me or something, but there's something that I just have to chant the Karaniya Metta Sutta when I used to be going to the forest, Chetas and so on. I'm not somebody who believes blindly about things. It was very difficult for me to believe in anything. But when I witness what's happening when they do the Karaniya Metta Sutta, like in, I don't know, maybe it was 1983, spontaneously being in a forest in a kuti, I'm not a chanter, I don't chant in my kuti very much, but suddenly, spontaneously, I chanted the Karaniya Metta. It's very sweet when it comes naturally for me. And then what I discovered is that I felt really good afterwards. And I just had a sense, this Karaniya Metta has not just stayed in my body. There's a sense of, kind of a larger body, mind, that just interacting all the time with nature, with myself, with others, And we are constantly interacting with each other. You know, we're not separate. That's the beauty of it. We're not just doing this for ourselves. You know, even in Buddhist teaching of the Buddha, we focus on the path of training the mind till it's got rid of all this trash, quote unquote. It's trash sometimes, but it's also, you could say, all its suffering. That's what it is. Yeah? When you can live maybe a life of complexity. The Buddha didn't have an easy life. Don't tell me the Buddha had an easy life. He had an incredibly difficult life. People accuse him of making a woman pregnant, you know. And you know how the Buddha responded to that? He must have been he was amazing. Not must have been, he was amazing. He said to her, well, sister, you and me, we know what has happened. He didn't start blaming, you know, the group of ascetic who sent the girl there, the women. It's somewhere in the sutta, if you look at it. He points this fact. It might be exactly the word he said, but it is like, basically, you know and I know what happened, you know, if something happened. And she had been pretending to be pregnant, you know. So this path is leading to the beautiful realization that the cause of suffering can be seen and we can become smart with it, wise with it. We can become really, how do you say, adept at letting go. We can become adept at seeing and looking. Many things in ourselves prevent us to see ourselves. Many things. Because we are frightened, because we have had traumas in our life, we don't think very nicely about ourselves, we don't like ourselves. Do we? Do we like ourselves? Yeah, we don't think about it. Yet this is our instrument. You know, this is our instrument that perceives the world. So we keep not liking ourselves, accepting ourselves as we are. I'm not talking about a feeling of love and pamper yourself with, you know, a feeling of love. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about acceptance of my own dukkha, acceptance of my own limitations, acceptance of my own disdain of myself, my feeling of thinking I'm not as good as other people, feeling that I have a history in the past that keep dragging me down and that is terrible and I can't shake it off anymore. Is that loving yourself? No. That's not accepting oneself. That's what prevents you to go deeper into the practice. Because you cannot see so clearly. Remember, the Buddha says concentration doesn't do it, huh? No. Concentration gives you a powerful mind to be able to focus and see. You need the concentration and the art of focalizing your attention and, you know, really staying with what you're looking at or what you're studying. It's like a study. You all become a doctor, a really physician for the mind and body. So you're doing, you know, your 5-year study now. It's like dissecting your mind and body. Not fun, but hopefully, if you have a few people smiling around you and having a good laugh about things, that could help you a bit, couldn't it? Lightening up a bit while you're focusing on your dukkha. It's good to have a sense of humor, you know, with this life. Otherwise, you know, you'll be like me, like after 10 years or 8 years, I can't remember, I went to Ajahn Sumedho, and I said, Lumpo, I don't know. I can't believe how, you know, we don't become crazy. You know, we're working, and I was really serious. And I knew it was a bit of humor behind because I knew it was my mind, and my mind was already not quite mine anymore, you know. But still, it was mine enough to feel disturbed by it. So I said, otherwise, if I wasn't disturbed, if I knew it wasn't mine, I would never have gone to talk to Ajahn Sumedho about it. 20 minutes, I'm sure you've been there yourself. 20 minutes, you spend 20 minutes either in yourself before, without a teacher or a Chensomedo, or with other people. I'm terrible, I'm a hopeless case, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm an awful person, blah, 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 on and on and on and on. I used to say that to a Chensomedo. He looked at me, he probably listened to me until I finished. And, I can't do this, I'm really hopeless, I'm doing this, I feel so bad, I've been angry with that or upset with that. These people, it was more me, I was feeling that, this practice, I never have any doubt, but I just felt maybe the result were not good enough, maybe something like that, And he looked at me like completely speechless, And then now, if I said things like that about myself, I think I would be mad. Crazy. What do these words help you? Tell me. Do they help you to think so badly about yourself? Is that the way you want to go forward in life? I'm a hopeless case? I can't do this, I can't do that, I never... No, this is why we need to relax a lot. So what happens when you relax? It means things start coming up. The Buddha, Ajahn Sumedho, it's a bit like a Buddha, used to tell us, you don't practice to have with a goal in mind, getting somewhere and say, your heart, your mind, your heart, the most unexpected time when you suddenly forget about your problems, a solution comes up. Things rise up in the heart when you begin to relax, accept yourself as you are. Otherwise, you still have a lot of tension, a lot of, whoa, that door, I can't open that one. Oh, I can't open that one. Whoa, that window, I'm not sure about what I'm going to see. Do you understand? We are frightened of this inner life in ourselves. And we have quite a challenging life. All of us are celibate. Living with men and women, it's not easy, is it? Right? So what do we do with that energy? With a lot, not without having a good laugh about it and somebody who can talk. Ajahn Sumedho used to be wonderful. You have to have Ajahn Sucitto, Ajahn Sumedho for these things. They'll start laughing a lot. I don't know, I haven't seen Ajahn Amaro, speaking about sexual energy was a big laughter at the same time, I don't know, maybe spoken to you, to the monks more discreetly. But it's important that we're all on the same page, it's not easy for anybody, and it's the hardest thing we can do. Do you know that? The hardest thing we can do, to be celibate in this world, consciously, and actually wisely and lovingly. Most of it is lovingly. Not kind of, ugh. Lovingly, it means the ability to accept what you see. That's what it is. I'm not saying like, oh, you should have a big pink heart in your room and meditate on it, I'm not saying this. As your guru, they do in India. They meditate on their teacher, just satin pink. I just have it in my mind straight away, satin pink heart, and instead of my teacher, I just meditate on that. It wouldn't hurt me. It could make me laugh a bit. If you want a sense of humor, you could try this. Anyway, so when you look at your life, any scientists, any doctors, any people who have cut the bodies or studied the cells and so on, they know how amazing, this amazing complexity managed to build a human beings. Managed to build life. Can you imagine how extraordinary it is? This complexity, when it's harmonious, is really doing a good job. So I think that Buddha Dharma is what brings harmony in our mind, body, spirit, It brings this harmony of peace, the peacefulness, the peace of knowing we have a way forward. But not like on a tank with pistol in the front, like kill that one, kill that one, kill that one. I'm not talking about anybody here, I've seen probably too much news. Do you know, when you talk about the virus, for example, people go to war, we're war with the virus. As soon as I heard this, I just wanted to take the virus, I wanted to take the virus in my arm and say, it's all right, you can relax, Do what you have to do, don't worry about us. The virus doesn't know what it is doing. I mean, honestly, look at this war-like world we're living in, Virus, we got millions and millions and trillions of viruses inside us, doing their work to our abdomen and intestine can work properly and digest and, do all the things we need to do to stay alive. And then, kill the virus. It's such a stupid thing to say. So, simplicity is realizing, and we've stopped at this, I think I stopped at the first noble truth, maybe. Okay, simply, if you can, from what I described to you, you can go to your book and start reading now, inside. Find out what the Buddha means. He didn't say these words for nothing. And then, when you go to the second noble truth, then also, it's something you have to find out and discover and see the end of it. It's a lifetime work. Don't expect, once you have finished your training of 5 years and so on, it's a lifetime work. Unless, Buddha took 6 years, but I think he was well prepared before. Don't you think? I think so. I don't think anybody, I've never seen here anybody after 6 years becoming a Buddha. Have you? Nobody in the world yet. Maybe they're just hiding somewhere. There was a little Buddha in Nepal, but then since then you hear horrible stories of, corruptions and all that is how awful. Even the little Buddha in kind of en herbe, we say in French, a little kind of growing little Buddha in Nepal, turned into become connected with horrible situations of the world. Then we don't have to do anything for the third noble truth. The third noble truth is the out breath. You breathe like, you look, and then it's all gone. The ending of suffering. The ending. That is something so important to see, because you will notice we don't want to see the ending because most people are massively bored with the ending of suffering. It just does not excite anybody. Peace is not something that's the ending of suffering, Noriko. The ending of suffering is peace. And many people, I don't know, maybe your generation are much more evolved than we are, I don't know. But when Ajahn Sumedho pointed out that it's an acquired taste, then you realize you don't notice peace until you pay deep attention to the end of these suffering things that you experience in yourself. Once you see the end, then you begin to see. Some famous teacher in Thailand calls them mini nibbana moment. Yeah. So if you want to have a taste of nibbana, just keep looking at the end of suffering whenever it's visible to you. When you feel it, taste it, hear the silence of the end of suffering. Yeah? And then, so that's Nirodha, cessation. People kind of confuse cessation with almost like killing your life. It's not. It's cessation of what could kill your life. If you have the suffering, it goes on, and you don't see it, and you don't know how to let it go, liberate yourself from it, it will make you sick and miserable. Mentally miserable, physically sick, because the body follow what the mind is, doing. And remember, the mind is not your brain, it's so everything you don't see, perception, feeling, mood, etc., And so, this is the greatest gift to mankind, the Noble Eightfold Path. Isn't it incredible? We have a path forward. Sometimes it wouldn't have taken, I wouldn't have been so clear if I hadn't had a teacher who told me how to handle my life, when I went off the path. Instead of beating myself up for hours, I will have a great humorous teacher that always have the wisdom to make me laugh. Because most of the time we got off the path, don't we? We don't get it right. Or we think we don't get it right. That's why Ajahn Chah said, 75%, the path is like 75%. You get it right maybe for 20%, and 80% you get it wrong. You fall off, you just off balance. You reacted instead of wisdom, with your wisdom and mindfulness and awareness, responded from the Dhamma here. Not here, but here. And so, when you see the path, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, then you discover that the path is really, it's not a difficult path, but we can make it very difficult. People can make it very difficult. In the early days, we had a lot of people being gardeners, and they used to ask, what do I do with a bug in the garden? Why do I do with a bug in the garden? How can I kill it and continue my job? Kill them. Or if they had a job where they were killing down the line of their business, they were they kind of study what was going on, and they realized they were very unskillful, unethical situations. And Ajahn Sumedho liked killing people, at the end, like if you're in the military, for example, or if you are a butcher, or if you are, a fish person. But Ajahn Chah gave us some very good tips for that. For example, when a fisherman used to go and come and see him, they used to ask him, they can't keep the 5 precepts because they are fishermen and they kill fish. So he would just give them, I think, 4. I don't know exactly, but he could give them 4. Yeah. Well, I don't know, the killing is the first one, isn't it? Well, he didn't bother so much, I think I don't know exactly what he did, but the gist of it was, reflecting that these people, that is the only livelihood they have to support their family. Okay, it's fishing in the river. So instead of giving them a big kind of talk about Buddhism and so on, he would just encourage them to reflect on their life. He would, so little by little, they would find by themselves, they would be more at peace with themselves. He didn't tell them terrible things that will make them so worried how to support their family, how to bring money for people to eat in their family. And little by little, they themselves would understand that harming is difficult, And I don't know what happened to those fishermen or fisherwomen, but I think they gained some wisdom and moved on. It's a little bit like us at the beginning at Chitta in 79-80. For 5 years, no, maybe less, maybe 3 years, I had, at Christmas, we all had a Christmas dinner with the, what do you call the bird that we kill? I can't remember. The turkey, yeah. With the turkey and so on. Every Christmas, a full thing with lots of meat and so on, So we didn't say, oh, sorry, they just drive down from London, 2 hours and say, sorry, we're just vegetarian, we just don't, no good, shouldn't do that, blah, 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 blah. No, we just ate it. And little by little, Ajahn Sumedho will just talk about metta, whatever, his talk, over the years had an effect. Eventually, all the people got, a question why we would be, what this first precept meant, whether killing animal or killing people or killing this or, And eventually, the Christmas we have here, maybe 3 years later, it was all soya and beans instead. Now, for somebody who is into turkey, it's not a great news, but on Christmas Day. But we have less and less, very little meat or fish or whatever, And that is the way to go. That's the example we got from Machen Sumedho. Not to start giving them a long speech about how terrible they are and now they should become a Buddhist, and if they're not Buddhist, they'll go to hell. The short version, of my description. So over the time, maybe we have to stop, yeah? And the path, just to bring the simplicity of the path, it's all related, you notice, there's no metaphysics about having to, pray to the higher gods that we never seen, or a metaphysical world, You just say, well, when you don't get what you want, you suffer, don't you? And if you don't get what you don't want, you suffer too. And you're separated from the loved ones, you suffer too. When I was separated from my comic side of me, I suffered for about a week, to feel like, oh, I can't make people laugh anymore. I'd really enjoy. I had lots of friends like that. You lose many friends when you stop being humorous with people. But in monasteries, that's the standard. You don't have to laugh all the time, which is a relief in a way, right? And so, well, I think maybe we can... I'm getting to continue to speak a little bit, but I think we could stop. Who was the person taking the video? Yeah. I mean, just to finish, that you can do, it's a progressive work. And when you are really miserable and feeling terrible, and this is your work. How many times I'm going to say that? I have been through hell not so long ago myself, okay? Hell and back. But I haven't forgotten the golden door of liberation through that experience, you understand? It took patience, a lot of patience, endurance, but that's how you get free. You don't ask for it, but when it comes, you remember what this experience is going to show you, and if you stay patient and you endure and you stop believing yourself, then what happens? The letting go is actually given a chance to appear in your consciousness. You can see but it takes a particular, this patience is a very beautiful quality. It's the ability just slowly to feel what you are feeling in each moment, or sometimes it doesn't have to be each moment. You feel this feeling. It's so unsatisfactory, and it's so kind of, oh my God, if I had my boyfriend or my girlfriend, yeah, it would be so much more fun. We'll take the car, we go off on a movie, and we have fun for, go to the beach and have sunshine and so on. Or, not the monks and nuns can do that, but that's that's the work we do. We are doing a very serious renunciation here, without maybe making a big deal about it. So, yeah, that dukkha is priceless. Why do you think the Buddha left that in the world? Everybody knows at some point, I don't get what I want, I suffer. I suffered like hell, this person will say. But what did you do with it? Did you notice that it had something behind it? The transformation is called transforming the heart, transforming the mind. That's my experience. I don't know about you, but you're not wasting your suffering to continue and recreate old patterns. So I think I'll stop now, otherwise So the question, there's only two questions. No, the first question is, I live a very simple life. I am frugal with my money, have just a few friends, and make a lot of free time in my life. Everybody around me seems to believe that they need to do more, to have more, be more, etc. And I can see that this causes them much suffering. How can we invite them to see that if they got rid of a lot of the things in their lives, plural, then they would be happier? It seemed like a tricky subject, as often people seem to get angry at the suggestion, many things. Yes, you're right. People will be very angry if you speak to them like that. If you try to convince them that, that if they had a less, less belongings, they would be happier. This question, when I read it the first time, I realized that it's not, there is something that's not quite right there, because really the thing that works, what works best for most people, for everybody, I think, is to see by themselves a situation where this is exemplified. So in a way, what you described to me is you have already done quite a bit of work to keep your life simple, which is great, but you can't expect other people to do what you have done. It's an assumption, and it's also a demand, because the best way to really prove to people that it's worthwhile is not to ask other people to do it for you, to be satisfied with the way you see the world at the moment, but for them to become aware that you are very happy without so many belongings and complexities in your life, right? If you yourself manifest this, this pleasant feelings, this harmony, or this pleasurable, situation in your life, resulting from the fact that you have left behind a lot of complexities, then you will be, that's the best way to teach people if you want to teach them. Each situation is different. If you speak to people you know very well, people who want to hear you, if you want to speak to people who not only hear you, but they will know that you're not criticizing them, you're not trying to make them feel that you speak in a way that feels as if you were superior to them because you're doing something they're not doing, then that would maybe work, But most people are doing the best they can. And if that's what they can do, it's a question which is not so easy to respond, because I don't have the context to know about what you're talking about. I don't have the context. Do they have children? Do they have a life that requires complexities? It's difficult to have a kind of idealism in regard to those examples that you just wrote down, about people wanting more, needing more, etc. This energy of more is actually simply greed. I know it very well. It's an energy. And we for a whole lifetime, we may not be able to see it. In a way, it's an interesting energy. I don't know if I can say much now, but it's something that you can get what you want, but you don't have to eat, you don't need greed. It's possible to get what you want, but without that energy of greed, which is demanding and stressful and so on, which is pushing you, which is... So people are very much in the greed is desire, by the way, if you want another word for greed. So this desire is bottomless. That's one of the reasons I became a nun is the day I had this insight, it's like suddenly I saw through the nature of desire. It didn't stop my desires, but I saw the nature of desire is bottomless. It will never stop. It will only stop if you start believing it. If you only stop when you know this is something transient, it's just passing through, it comes and goes and so on. But otherwise, it's there everywhere. So when you say people want more, want to become, maybe, I don't know, I don't want to quote you in the wrong way. Yeah, you want to do more, have more, be more, etc. Yeah. I think the most important thing for you is just to continue to look at your life and see if you know, I don't know, generosity is part of simplicity as well, developing the quality of a mind that is generous and kind and loving and caring and wise, that's also part of simplifying one's life, you know, by adding friends rather than enemies. Yeah? When you are kind to people, or you're patient with them, or you are generous with them, people remember that act of kindness. It's quite amazing. I never thought of that, until, it's another topic altogether. I don't know if I want to embark on it, but somebody remembered, like 15 years later, an act of kindness I had done to her in England, and she had gone back to her, birth country, Thailand. And I had done an act of kindness for her, which I had completely forgotten. And when I was in Bangkok, I don't want to say name, but I was in a place where normally the monks stay, and when they were gone, in Bangkok, she, being the friend of the owner, she offered me the whole house, more or less. And I said, "Why do you do this to me?" And she said, "Because you really helped me on the day, da, da, da." She gave me details. It was quite amazing when the Buddha talks about things that people can create results for a long time. You don't reap them straight away, but suddenly somebody was very generous to me. So that's also simplify your life. When you feel more happy, when you feel generous and kind, a happy heart is a simple heart. A miserable heart is complex, like, oh my God, I suffer, it's like, what do I do? That's a complexity, it's caught up in its complexity. The mind doesn't understand. Very often, we talk about metta, we talk about kindness and so on. But do we reflect that our mind in a state of ignorance needs a lot of help and kindness? If you had somebody who was blind next to you and looking for a way out, would you beat them up? Would you mistreat them? Would you be ungenerous with them? I'm not with your greed. I'm not saying be generous with your greed, and you'll be in trouble. Just generous with life here. So I wish you well, and I hope you continue to do this, to live this life of simplicity, but always remember that simplicity begins in the heart-mind, yeah? Not in what you have externally. People can have many, many things, can be even very rich, and still have a heart, that stay with simplicity and, and a clear mind. Clear mind is, an act of, a sign of simplicity. When you can see what clogs your mind, that's already refuge in simplicity. Do you understand? You're already there, looking at the complexity. Make sense? And the second question, both from Robert, I think, is living by hundreds of rules from the Vinaya a simple way of living? I am skeptical. We should be skeptical because you've never done it, have you? Or maybe you have done it, I don't know. But if you've never done it, you could never know whether it's simple, it's a life of simplicity or not. You have to talk to the monks and nuns to find out why we're here at Amaravati. Most of us wanted the simplicity of monastic life, because we also wanted to dedicate, we wanted to focus, turn our attention, turn our life, turn our heart towards the Dhamma. And that takes sacrifice, like renunciation of many things. But it's worthwhile, otherwise we would not be here, would it? So, Of course, 225 rules for the monks and 240, I can't remember, for the nuns. And we have about 160, 70, more even. I mean, if I count everything, many more, do you know? And then you have the 5 precepts, 8 precepts, and so on. But, you know, many teachers will tell you that all those rules, if you know what these rules are, you will not be skeptical about this question. Because these rules, as a teacher said, some teachers said, very experienced ones, well-known even, you know, if you keep, you know, the foundation is the 5 precepts, okay? Then the 10 precepts is like a bit more renunciation. It's actually just 9 precepts. It's the 7th ones. It's just divided into 2. So the 7th becomes 7, and the half of the 7 become the 8. And then the one on sleeping, that's the 7, 8, yeah, 9. And then the last one is handling gold and silver. So that's, you know, 10th one, not handling money. But all the other rules that are, you know, written in the Vinaya, all the commentaries and all that, are about how to live decently and properly and respectfully the life of a samana, a disciple of the Buddha. So he shows the example, and I guess he expects his monks and nuns to follow the Vinaya that he has prescribed, right? Most of the rules come from just daily, you know, details about daily life. The fact that the nuns can't eat onions, for example, in the afternoon, is because one nun overdid it with onions 2,500 years ago, and bang, all the Siladhara can't eat onions. Of course, I think we have altered this for sick people. I know somebody, I don't know, I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but because of it, we're not even bhikkhuni. You know, as a Siddhartha, we live like bhikkhunis. And we have actually a situation that is very rare. It's like we live as bhikkhuni in the sense that we completely, you don't need to handle money at all. We have this vow of not handling money. So we're pretty much like this, you know, in terms of physical, on the physical level, unless you have a good pair of legs and you can walk off somewhere. But we are very lucky to be part of a tradition that has, you know, received a very terrific respect and terrific support and terrific appreciation. You know, so it's not us individually; it's just the incredible, you know, we could say, love, I would say, or interest, or you know, that brings us here and follow a rule of life, rules of life that are extremely, you know, demanding. You know, you can't go and get a miniskirt and with high heels whenever you want. Well, the nuns in up north, you know, the Zendan at the beginning, you know, the Trussell Hall. I knew them. I knew some of them very well, you know, and they told me that when they came out of the monastery, they could put a wig on and dress like a layperson, you know. And the teacher was really fierce. She was a woman, you know. She was very fierce, but she, because she came from Japan, I mean, she not came from Japan, she was English, but she had the training in Japan. I think maybe that's what they do for the women. I don't know. I mean, for the monks, maybe that's what they do. They start wearing jeans outside the monastery. I don't know. In any case, that's what they had. So we are very, you know, strict with our robes and so on. And so don't think that those rules are difficult to carry or to that they complicate our life. They don't complicate your life. For me, when I had the precepts, you know, just so 10 precepts, I was incredibly, you know, great. I mean, not grateful because I didn't even know this word. I didn't pronounce this word very often. It's not part of the worldly life usually, and my generation, I don't know. But yeah, I was so overwhelmed by the fact that taking the 10 precepts was like taking in my heart 10 friends. 5 precepts, 5 friends. Because I knew on my own I could never do it. As simple as that. You know, there was not like a high philosophical kind of description of why the precepts are like this or like that. I would do it on my own. So having the precept really helped me a lot. And we created our own Vinaya, for example, for the nuns, you know, with the help of a few elders, monks and nuns. And we, you know, it came like, in a way, like in the time of the Buddha, little by little, you know. It was not like something added 160 rules or something. It was just little by little. We realized that the 10 precepts were not enough to deal with the mindlessness we can have in small things, It's a refined, in a way, it's a very refined, you say, we adopt a very refined way of life at some level, you know. In the way mindfulness is included in every, you know, the work of mindfulness is included in every aspect of our daily life. You learn how to walk, you learn how to close a door, you know how to put your shoes on, you know how to take them off, you learn how to wear your robe a certain time, you learn how to speak, you know, with dignity and with respect. You know. You learn because you don't know yet. So you're not supposed to know it. If you knew it, you would not be doing the training. So the biggest part of the training, you know, of this rules is actually dealing with our failures. Dealing with, oh my God, I said that again. Oh my God, I hurt that person again. Oh no, I blew it again. Right? That's really what you have to deal with, the fallout of your lack of mindfulness in, you know, in relationship to those rules that you have taken on board is voluntary. So it's not something that you're forced into, you know, but you decide to take these rules because you find them valuable, you find them helpful, you find them, you know, the cynical mind, the clever mind, you know, can say, God, you know, all these rules, I could do whatever I want. Wow, what am I doing here? You know, this is ridiculous. And so what is in you that is interested in taking these rules? Is it someone you know? The part of you you know, do they want to take these rules? Do they? So, you know, we're all different. For some people it speaks a lot, for other people it doesn't. It's hard. But even when these rules speak to oneself and are aids and help and friends, you still have to be, they help you to develop a fierce mindfulness. Yeah? We recite them every fortnight. We have confession every fortnight, just like the bhikkhus. We have the same ceremony. And so this is something like, you know, at first it might feel you're forcing yourself to do something like that. Maybe at first you're inspired. And then after that you're uninspired. And then you might kind of drag yourself up into more inspiration. The whole path is like that, you know, it's up and down and up and down. At some point, you know, at some point you're much more confident in a way. Do you know what I mean? You don't have, but it doesn't mean your mind stops. It's not because you're confident that suddenly you stand on it, you're finished, you know? No, it's that life goes on and you'll be challenged. And then when you be challenged, that's when you need to really pay attention, because it could be, Mara could be successful or unsuccessful. When Mara is successful is when you don't feel you have a chance to go through the suffering you go through, and you stop transforming the mind in a way. It doesn't mean you have to stay, you know, in a situation you are in, or it doesn't mean that you have to do anything. You just have to learn to find out for yourself, what is it that liberates your mind? What is it? Is it distracting yourself? Very often, I didn't think of disrobing or going somewhere else particularly, because we used to read all these books, you know, at some point, kind of American books from, you know, numerology and the, you know, the different characters, the Enneagram and so on. So they're quite interesting. even astrology and so on. And then you realize that some people have gone from the monastery. Some people maybe in your life, have separated from their partner, from their husband and wife. We don't know what makes people go. But these rules, have been a burden to some people. Have been burdensome. I think it takes something to carry this Vinaya. It's not everybody's cup of tea, truly. I'm completely, I know. It's not for everybody to live like this for the rest of one's life, But some people, at some point, they're very happy. They're not happy, but they feel it's worthwhile. Yeah. Now, are there any other questions? No? Do you have any question in this group? Any question? No? Well, if you have any question, we can go on a holiday. Okay. So, well, it's nearly 5, huh? So. You may not have any question, but do you have any kind of thing you like me to linger a little bit more on things, certain things? Sorry, I know it's not fun to be with a nun who's half deaf. Yeah. Simplify into. Help yourself to simplify your life by relinquish. Oh, the language, yeah. Relinquishing. Oh, relinquishing. Yeah, got to. Little by little, like stage by stage, to relinquish different things from your life. Do you see is it helpful and how to progress on this way? So, to get rid of what is unnecessary. Good question. Well, I think, Evgenia, don't you think you have relinquished quite a bit already in 6 months? Can we just can you just relax for the next 6 months with what you have relinquished? I'm just responding to your question, Yeah, I mean, I feel that in a way, I wouldn't carry too much in my mind if I were you, this, because you already relinquished a lot just in a little short time. You don't need to improve on your relinquishment. I don't want to say what you have relinquished, but you have relinquished quite a bit, because I know it, but, And in terms of, relinquishment come fairly naturally when you get, I don't know, maybe don't you get bored with things at some point and you just feel, I don't want that anymore? Sometimes, I don't know about the monks, but the nuns, I know them, I know my mind well enough, you can make problem about anything. So you can be the Vibhavatana type that doesn't want any problem, everything is fine, or the Bhavatanha type who want to talk about their problem all the time and they, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. Love yourself as you are. We are Westerners. We're not Easterners, okay? And so basically, I'm going on to another thread right now, but I'm going back to the relinquishment. Another thread, which is, you go from one to the other. You want to relinquish everything, the mind, your mind, which is not yours, by the way. The program of your mind will go, relinquish and everything, and at some point you want to give it up, naturally. And then sometimes you battle because you don't want to relinquish certain things, But if I were you, as a first year Anagarika, I will make a year of relaxation, and your mind, through meditation, through restraint, through the life you live and so on, will inform you if something needs to be rebalanced because you don't relinquish something. Do you understand? if you come to a certain peace in yourself, you will see what is needed to relinquish. And if I, very often I bring the question back to the people. I say, if you had to advise somebody, what would you say to that person with your question? What I said, what did you say? Oh, hang on a second. Can you put the loop, please? Do you know how to put the loop? No? Because that would be fantastic. I speak. Oh God, it's not where. Oh, hang on. I speak. See. Normally, when you're on the loop, it works, but. Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
So right now I see with each relinquishment, my mind has less...
No, what would you say? What would you say to the person who asked the question you said to ask?
That it's worthwhile, that it's worthy of relinquish as much as you can. Yeah. And then see mind struggling and trying to find something else to launch onto. But you put your mind into this position where it has to face it without like finding some other nice thing to replace it.
Yeah. If you practice the Dhamma, you will see what you need to do. Or if you don't see it, well, life will kick you in the butt to see what you have to do. Do you understand? Sometimes we don't know what we have to do, what we have to, how we need to change. But I notice life is a good mind, It's not just your little mind. I mean, not just your little mind that will inform you. It's also life. Situation, People you meet on one day, suddenly you see more clearly. So all you have to do, Evgenia, is really to relax, make peace, and be patient with your boring mind when it's just peaceful mind.